The crystalline doors of the grand assembly shattered inward, sending fragments across the polished obsidian floor. Captain Maya Santos didn't flinch. Her hand remained steady on her sidearm as she watched 3 Valorian princesses stumble through the entrance, their iridescent gowns torn, their violet faces streaked with something that looked like blood but shimmered gold in the light. "Human!" the tallest princess gasped, her 4 eyes wide with terror. "You must help us!" Maya's earpiece crackled. "Captain, you are not authorized to engage with royal blood. Stand down." She ignored the command. Behind the princesses, shadows moved in the corridor. Not ordinary shadows. These writhed and consumed the light itself, spreading like oil across water. Maya had seen those shadows before, during the siege of Kepler Station. Nothing that entered them ever came back. "Get behind me," Maya ordered, stepping forward. The middle princess laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Behind a human? We are daughters of the eternal throne. We do not hide behind primitive." The shadows lunged. Maya fired 3 shots in rapid succession, each bullet wrapped in electromagnetic pulses designed for Valorian metallurgy. The shadows recoiled, screaming in frequencies that made her teeth ache. She grabbed the closest princess by her jeweled collar and hauled her back, shoving all 3 toward the assembly's inner sanctum. "Move or die. Your choice." They moved. The sanctum doors sealed behind them with a hiss of pressurized air. Maya's pulse pounded in her ears as she activated the emergency shields. Outside, the shadows crashed against the barriers, testing for weakness. They had maybe 10 minutes before the shields failed. The princesses stared at her, with expressions somewhere between disgust and disbelief. "You touched me," the tall one said slowly, examining her collar as if contaminated. "Your primitive hands on royal silk." Maya checked her ammunition. 15 rounds left. "You're welcome. We did not thank you. I noticed." The shortest princess, younger than the others, perhaps 16 in human years, studied Maya with tilted head. "Why did you disobey your superiors?" "You heard the command." "You were told to stand down." It was a good question. Maya had spent 8 years in the Terran Defense Force, 8 years following orders without question. But she'd also spent those years watching Earth get treated like the galaxy's janitor. Humanity did the dangerous work, the dirty work, while species like the Valorians collected the glory and wrote the history books from their crystal palaces. "Because it was the right thing to do," Maya said simply. The middle princess scoffed. "Right. What does a human know of right? Your species still wars among itself. You poison your own planet. You've barely achieved faster than light travel, and only because we allowed you to reverse engineer our discarded technology." "Seraphina," the young one said quietly. "Perhaps now is not. Be silent, Lyria. She deserves to know her place." Seraphina turned to Maya, her expression cold. "My sister died because of human incompetence. The security protocols your people installed in the Eastern Wing failed. Those shadows shouldn't have entered the palace at all." Maya felt something dark coil in her chest. "When did this happen?" 3 rotations ago. The humans responsible have been scheduled for execution. Were they given a trial? Why would we waste time on human trials? Your people are expendable. We have 8 billion more where they came from. Seraphina examined her nails, each one painted with living light. My mother, the queen, wanted to expel all humans from the palace. But the council reminded her that we need someone to clean the lower levels. The shield flickered. 7 minutes left. Maya walked to the communication panel and activated the emergency channel. Nothing. The shadows had severed all connections. They were trapped in a sealed room with no backup, limited ammunition, and 3 princesses who thought her existence was an insult to the universe. Lyria approached slowly, her movements careful. Unlike her sisters, she didn't recoil when she stood beside Maya. Can you truly stop them? The shadows? I stopped them before. Where? Kepler Station. 2 years ago. They came through a dimensional rift we were studying. Killed 47 people before we figured out how to push them back. We heard about that, Lyria said softly. The official report said Valorian forces closed the rift. Maya smiled with humor. Of course it did. The tall princess, who hadn't spoken since the sanctum sealed, finally moved. She positioned herself by the door, her posture rigid. If we survive this, human, I will personally ensure you are rewarded. Perhaps assignment to a cleaner sector. The waste reclamation units could use competent supervision. Thalissa. Lyria's voice carried genuine shock. She saved our lives. She did her job. Would you thank a waste processor for disposing of garbage? This is what humans do. They handle the problems too dirty for civilized beings. Thalissa's 4 eyes fixed on Maya with cold precision. Isn't that why your species accepted the Treaty of Submission? You knew you were inferior. You knew you needed our guidance. The treaty. Maya had been 12 when Earth signed it. She remembered watching the ceremony on screens across every city, remembered her father's tears as he explained what it meant. Humanity would have access to alien technology, alien medicine, alien worlds. In exchange, Earth would provide labor. Manual labor. Military labor. The dangerous, difficult work that kept galactic civilization running while other species reaped the benefits. We accepted it because we wanted to survive, Maya said quietly. Because you made it clear that refusal meant extinction. Exactly. You understood your place. Thalissa smiled, showing rows of crystalline teeth. And you should be grateful. Without us, you'd still be crawling around your dying world, fighting over resources, destroying yourselves with primitive weapons. The shield dropped to 30%. 4 minutes. Maya activated her tactical display, analyzing the shadow patterns. They were intelligent, probing for weaknesses in a coordinated pattern. Something controlled them. Something that wanted these princesses dead badly enough to breach the most secure palace in the known galaxy. Who wants you killed? Maya asked. Serafina laughed. Who doesn't? We're royalty. Assassination is practically a recreational sport among the noble houses. These aren't noble house assassins. These are void spawn. They don't work for political gain. They work for consumption. Someone opened a rift and pointed them at you specifically. Maya turned, studying each princess. What did you do? How dare you suggest? What did you do? Silence filled the sanctum, broken only by the crackling of failing shields. Then, Lyria spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. We found something in the archives. Something about the Treaty of Submission. The shield hit 20%. 2 minutes remaining. Maya's finger tightened on her weapon as the shadows began seeping through microscopic gaps in the barrier. Tell me, she said. Tell me now. Lyria met her eyes, and Maya saw something she'd never seen in a Valorian before. Fear mixed with shame. The treaty was a lie, Lyria whispered. Earth never threatened anyone. Earth never needed to submit. We made you sign it because... The shield collapsed. Shadows poured into the sanctum like a tidal wave of living darkness. Maya fired, each shot buying them seconds. Thalissa screamed. Serafina stumbled backward. But Lyria stood perfectly still, her eyes locked on Maya's. Because you were better than us, she finished. And we couldn't allow that. The shadows reached for them with 1,000 grasping tendrils, and Maya Santos understood that everything she'd been taught about humanity's place in the galaxy was a carefully constructed lie. The realization lasted exactly 3 seconds before the darkness swallowed them whole. When Maya opened her eyes, she stood in a chamber she'd never seen before. White walls curved upward into infinity, and the air tasted of ozone and something ancient. The three princesses lay unconscious on the floor, their bodies unmarked but their breathing shallow. The shadows were gone. Standing before her, watching with an expression carved from stone and starlight, was Queen Valora herself, the ruler of 37 systems, the architect of the galactic peace, the woman who'd made humanity kneel. "Captain Santos," the Queen said, her voice carrying harmonics that human ears weren't designed to hear. "We need to talk about what my daughters discovered, and why 50 people, including my own blood, would rather die than let that information reach your kind." Maya raised her weapon, knowing it was futile, knowing it changed nothing. "Start talking," she said. The Queen's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. Something that might have been respect. "Lower your weapon, Captain. You're going to want to sit down for this." Maya didn't lower anything. "Talk. Now!" The Queen gestured, and holographic images filled the air between them. Maya saw Earth as it had been 200 years ago, before first contact. She saw cities burning, saw nuclear winter spreading, saw humanity tearing itself apart. Then she saw alien ships descending, saw the treaty signed, saw Earth transformed into a servant world. But beneath those images, another layer of data scrolled past. Analysis, projections, probabilities. "We've studied thousands of species across millions of years," Queen Valora said quietly. "We've watched civilizations rise and fall. We've identified patterns in technological development, social evolution, military capacity. By every metric we use to measure potential, humanity scored at the absolute top. Not because you were advanced, because of how quickly you would become advanced." Maya's weapon didn't waver. "So you sabotaged us. We saved you." "We saved the entire galaxy." The Queen's 4 eyes blazed with conviction. "Your projections showed a 97% probability of achieving post-scarcity civilization within 2 centuries. Within 5 centuries, you would have developed technology we can barely theorize. Within a millennium, humanity would have reshaped the galaxy itself. And every simulation we ran showed the same result. Once humanity reached that level, every other species became obsolete. Not through conquest, through simple evolution. You would have made us irrelevant." The hologram shifted, showing alternate timelines. In each one, humanity spread across the stars not as conquerors but as builders, innovators, explorers. And in each timeline, older species like the Valorians faded into the background, their empires crumbling not from war but from irrelevance. "So you crippled us," Maya said, her voice deadly calm. "You locked us into servitude. You made us believe we were inferior. We gave you a role, a purpose, a place in galactic society where you wouldn't threaten the order we've maintained for 10,000 years." The Queen stepped closer, unafraid of the weapon pointed at her heart. "Yes, we limited your technology. Yes, we controlled your development. But we also prevented your extinction. The simulations showed that if humanity developed unchecked, other species would unite to destroy Earth completely. We saw it happen in 73% of projections. We chose the option where humanity survived. As slaves. As partners. Limited partners, yes, but alive." Maya wanted to shoot. Every molecule in her body screamed for it. But her training, the discipline beaten into her through 8 years of service, held her hand steady while her mind processed the implications. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because my daughters found the original files, the unaltered simulations, the true reason for the treaty. And they were going to present them to the Grand Assembly tomorrow. The Queen's expression finally cracked, showing something raw beneath. Within hours of their discovery, the void spawn appeared. Someone in my own court would rather murder my children than let humanity know the truth. Who? That's what I need your help to discover. Maya laughed, the sound bitter. You want the inferior human to solve your royal problems? I want Captain Maya Santos, who scored higher on tactical assessment than any Valorian military candidate in recorded history, to help me find who's trying to start a war. The Queen waved her hand, and new images appeared. The Treaty of Submission is maintained by consensus. 17 major species, 47 minor species, all agreeing that humanity must be controlled. If they learn the truth, that we lied, that we've been suppressing the most evolutionarily gifted species in the galaxy, that consensus will shatter. Some will demand Earth's liberation. Others will demand its destruction. The galaxy will fracture. Billions will die. Good, Maya said coldly. Let it burn. Captain, how many humans have died in your labor camps? How many have been executed for incompetence? How many children grew up believing they were inferior because you needed to maintain your precious order? Maya's finger tightened on the trigger. Give me one reason I shouldn't put a bullet in your head right now, and let the chips fall where they may. The Queen met her eyes without flinching. Because there's something else in those files. Something my daughters saw just before the shadows attacked. What? A countdown. Someone has been systematically removing the technological limiters we placed on Earth's development. Every year, small pieces of suppressed human technology have been leaked back to your homeworld. Someone has been deliberately accelerating your development despite the treaty protocols. Maya felt ice spread through her veins. Why? The current projections show that if this acceleration continues, humanity will achieve breakthrough capability in approximately 18 months. At that point, you'll surpass Valorian technology regardless of treaty restrictions. Whoever's been feeding you information wants humanity to break free naturally, through innovation rather than revolution. And they want it to happen when the galaxy is least prepared. Behind them, Lyria stirred, coughing. Her eyes fluttered open, and she saw her mother standing before an armed human. She tried to rise, but her legs wouldn't support her. Mother, don't. The human will. The human deserves to know the truth. Queen Valora said, never breaking eye contact with Maya. All of it. Including the fact that I voted against the treaty 200 years ago. That I argued for humanity's free development. That I was outvoted 17-1 and forced to implement restrictions I believed were morally indefensible. The Queen's voice carried weight that bent the air itself. I've spent 2 centuries trying to undo what my predecessors and colleagues did to your species. The leaks, the technology transfers, the accidents that allowed humans to reverse engineer our equipment, that was me. I've been preparing humanity for the day when you could stand as equals rather than servants. But someone discovered my plan and decided to accelerate it catastrophically, probably to create chaos they can exploit. Serafina groaned, pushing herself upright. Mother, you're confessing treason. I'm confessing the truth. The galaxy built itself on a lie, and that lie is about to collapse. Captain Santos represents the future, whether we're ready for it or not. Thalissa remained unconscious, her breathing shallow. Maya lowered her weapon slightly, her mind racing through implications and possibilities. Why should I believe anything you say? You've lied for 200 years. Why trust you now? Because I'm about to give you something no human has possessed since the treaty was signed. The Queen raised her hand, and a small data crystal materialized in her palm. This contains every file my daughters discovered, plus classified information about Earth's true capabilities and the identity of every council member who voted for your suppression. Take it to your homeworld. Broadcast it across every human settlement in the galaxy. Burn down the lie we built." Maya stared at the crystal, her hand trembling as she reached for it. "This is a trick. If it were a trick, you'd already be dead. I am Queen of the Valorian Empire, Captain. I don't need elaborate deceptions to eliminate one human soldier." The crystal pulsed with inner light. "But I do need that soldiers help to prevent a catastrophic war and find whoever is trying to weaponize humanity's emergence. What happens when Earth finds out the truth? Chaos. Rage. Probably several assassination attempts on my life. Human revolutionaries will demand immediate liberation. Other species will panic and potentially mobilize against Earth. The galaxy I've spent 2 centuries stabilizing will tear itself apart." The Queen smiled grimly. "But the alternative is allowing whoever's behind this to control the narrative and use humanity as a weapon. At least this way, your species gets to choose its own destiny." Maya took the crystal, its surface warm against her palm. Information flooded into her neural implant, overwhelming her with data. She saw everything: the original simulations, the council debates, the projection models that proved humanity's potential. She saw the truth that had been hidden from 8 billion people for 200 years. She saw that Earth had never needed to kneel, that humanity's submission had been built on lies and fear and the older species' desperate need to maintain their fading relevance. The rage that filled her was pure and absolute. "If I take this back to Earth, there will be war," Maya said quietly. "Yes. Humans will demand justice. Reparations. Freedom. Yes. Many of your people will die. Probably." The Queen's expression remained steady. "But the alternative is continuing a lie that poisons everything it touches. I've lived 200 years watching humanity's spirit slowly crushed, watching brilliant minds waste their potential in maintenance bays, and waste processing centers because we were afraid of what you might become. I'm tired, Captain Santos. I'm tired of the lie. Let it end." Lyria finally managed to stand, leaning against the wall for support. "Mother, the Council will execute you for this. They'll call it treason, and they'll be right. You're destroying everything our civilization built. Our civilization was built on oppression and fear." The Queen replied, "If it can't survive truth, it deserves to fall." A deep alarm reverberated through the chamber. The Queen's expression sharpened. "Someone's coming." Palace guard, probably responding to the shield collapse. She turned to Maya. "You have a choice, Captain. You can take that crystal and run, get to a transport ship before security locks down the palace. Or you can help me find who's trying to turn your species' awakening into an apocalypse." "Why not both?" Maya checked her weapon's charge. "Still enough for a fight. I'll help you find your conspirator. But then, I'm taking this information straight to Earth, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. I wouldn't dream of trying." The chamber doors exploded inward. Palace guards poured through, their energy weapons raised, their crystalline armor gleaming. But they didn't fire immediately. The sight of their queen standing calmly beside an armed human seemed to short-circuit their protocols. "Majesty," the lead guard said, his voice tight with confusion. "We detected a breach. Is the human threatening? Captain Santos is under my personal protection," the Queen said, her voice carrying absolute authority. "She saved my daughters from void spawn. Anyone who harms her answers to me directly." The guards lowered their weapons slightly but didn't sheath them. Maya could see the conflict in their expressions, the cognitive dissonance of treating a human as anything other than expendable labor. "Majesty, the Council has convened an emergency session," another guard reported. "They're demanding explanations for the shadow breach and the princess's condition." They've also issued immediate arrest warrants for all humans involved in the Eastern Wing's security failure. Cancel those warrants. Majesty? I said cancel them. Those humans were scapegoated for a security failure that originated far above their level. Someone with council-level access opened that rift deliberately. The Queen's 4 eyes blazed. Send a message to the council. Tell them I'm invoking sovereign right. All investigations into the Shadow Breach fall under my direct authority. Anyone who interferes will be charged with obstruction. The guards exchanged uncertain glances. Sovereign right hadn't been invoked in 3,000 years. It essentially declared martial law within the palace and gave the Queen absolute authority over all proceedings. Is that wise, Majesty? The council will comply or face charges of treason. Those are their options. Seraphina had recovered enough to stand, though she still looked shaken. Mother, what are you doing? Protecting a human over council authority? They'll move against you. Let them try. The Queen gestured to Maya. Captain, you'll need access to the palace security systems to track whoever opened the rift. I'm granting you temporary clearance at level 9. That's higher than most council members. Use it wisely. Maya's neural implant chimed as new authorization codes flooded her systems. Level 9. That was insane. That was access to classified files, royal chambers, even the Queen's private quarters. You're giving an enemy soldier access to your most secure systems, Maya said slowly. I could sell this information for enough credits to buy a small moon. You could, but you won't. The Queen smiled slightly. Because you want the truth more than you want revenge. And because somewhere beneath the rage, you know that not everyone in this palace is your enemy. How reassuring. I'm not asking you to forgive us, Captain. I'm asking you to help prevent the catastrophe that's coming regardless of whether you forgive us or not. Lyria stepped forward, her movements still unsteady. If Captain Santos is investigating the breach, I want to help. Absolutely not, Seraphina snapped. She's human, Lyria. We can't trust her with our lives. She already saved our lives. While you were insulting her, Lyria turned to Maya, and there was something approaching respect in her 4 eyes. I know you have no reason to accept my help. I know my species has done terrible things to yours. But I found those files. I saw what we did to Earth. And I can't just stand by anymore. Maya studied the young princess, seeing genuine conviction beneath the nervousness. Can you shoot? I'm royal. We train in 17 forms of combat before our 10th birthday. That's not what I asked. Lyria met her eyes steadily. Yes, I can shoot. Then grab a weapon. We're going to need it. Thalissa finally regained consciousness, her voice weak but dripping with disdain. Lyria, don't be absurd. You can't possibly work alongside a human. Think of the scandal. Think of what the noble houses will say. The noble houses can say whatever they want. Lyria accepted a sidearm from one of the guards, checking its charge with practiced efficiency. Someone just tried to murder us. Someone is manipulating both humanity and the Empire for their own gain. I don't care if Captain Santos is human, Valorian, or a sentient fungus. She's competent, and we need competence right now. The Queen nodded approval. Well said. Captain Santos, my daughter is now under your command for the duration of this investigation. Keep her alive. Wait, Maya said. She's a princess. I don't have authority to command royalty. You do now. I just gave it to you. The Queen turned to address the assembled guards. Spread the word through all ranks. Captain Maya Santos operates under sovereign right. Her orders carry the weight of my own. Anyone who disobeys her answers to me personally. Anyone who harms her commits treason. Is that understood? The guard snapped to attention, though Maya could see the confusion and resentment in their body language. 200 years of considering humans inferior didn't vanish because a queen issued orders. This is madness, Thalissa whispered. Mother, you're destroying everything. For what? For humans? For truth, the queen replied. Because lies always come due eventually, and the bill is always higher than we want to pay. Maya's tactical implant chimed, analyzing the security data flooding into her system. She pulled up holographic displays, tracking the energy signatures from the rift that had spawned the void spawn. The signature was complex, layered, deliberately obscured. But buried in the data was something familiar, a frequency pattern she'd seen before. During the Kepler station incident, the rift there had used the exact same opening frequency. The conspiracy runs deeper than the palace, Maya said, her voice cold. Whoever opened this rift also opened the one at Kepler station 2 years ago. They've been testing void spawn deployment methods on human targets to refine their techniques before using them against Valorians. The Queen's expression darkened. Kepler station had a human population of 6,000. Had. Past tense. 47 survived. Maya looked up from the data, meeting the Queen's eyes. You've been using humanity as test subjects while we figured out how to counter threats you wanted to weaponize against your own people. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Someone in your court wants the throne, and they're willing to burn the galaxy to get it. Lyria gasped. That's no one would dare. Someone already did dare, the Queen said quietly. And they'll dare again unless we stop them. She turned to the guards. Seal the palace. No one enters or leaves without my personal authorization. Initiate conclave protocol. The guards paled. Conclave protocol meant complete lockdown. It hadn't been used since the succession wars 4,000 years ago. Majesty, conclave protocol requires council approval. I'm invoking sovereign right. I don't need council approval. The Queen's voice carried harmonics that made the chamber walls vibrate. We have a traitor in the palace who commands void spawn and has already murdered thousands. Every moment we debate protocol is a moment they use to cover their tracks. Now move. The guards scattered, their confusion overridden by direct royal command. Within seconds, alarms echoed through the palace corridors. Emergency shields activated. Transport pads shut down. Communication channels encrypted. The largest palace in the galaxy had just become a prison. Maya pulled up architectural schematics, cross-referencing them with the rift energy signatures. The frequency pattern originated from the council chambers. Whoever opened the rift had direct access to the highest level systems. That narrows our suspects to 17 council members, the Queen said grimly. 16 now, if we exclude me. Could it be multiple conspirators working together? Possible. But coordinating something this complex with multiple parties increases the risk of exposure. I'd guess one primary actor, possibly with unknowing accomplices. Serafina, still shaken but recovering, spoke up. If you want someone who hates humans enough to experiment on them, and who has the technical knowledge to manipulate rift technology, you should investigate Council Member Drathan. He's voted against every human rights proposal for the last century. And his family made their fortune mining in dimensional physics research. Drathan is also the loudest voice in the council. The Queen replied. Too obvious. Whoever's behind this is subtle, patient. They've been planning this for years, possibly decades. Maya studied the data streams, her enhanced mind processing thousands of variables. Something nagged at her, a pattern she couldn't quite identify. The rift frequencies were almost perfect, but there was a tiny fluctuation in the waveform, an imperfection that shouldn't exist in Valorian technology unless the rift wasn't opened using pure Valorian technology, Maya said suddenly. There's a human signature in the frequency modulation. Someone combined our tech with yours. The Queen's eyes widened. That's impossible. Humans don't have access to Rift technology. We're not supposed to have access. But you said yourself that someone's been leaking technology to Earth for years. Maya highlighted the anomaly in the data. This frequency pattern uses human quantum processing architecture grafted onto Valorian dimensional manipulation systems. Whoever built this has extensive knowledge of both species' capabilities. Lyra appeared at the hologram, her brow furrowed. Could it be one of the human technical specialists? We have about 300 working in the palace systems. No. The human component is too advanced. This is beyond anything Earth has officially developed. Maya felt pieces clicking into place. Unless someone's been giving Earth more technology than you realized, Your Majesty. Unless your secret program to accelerate human development wasn't as secret as you thought. The Queen's expression turned to stone. You think someone discovered my technology transfers and hijacked them for their own purposes. I think someone has been piggybacking on your operation. You've been carefully feeding Earth small pieces of technology to gradually advance our capabilities. But someone else has been slipping in additional transfers, more dangerous technology, specifically designed to make humans a viable threat to galactic stability. They want humanity to emerge not as equals but as weapons. Who benefits from that scenario? Maya pulled up council member profiles, analyzing political positions and historical voting records. Someone who wants to destabilize the current power structure. Someone who can position themselves as the solution when the crisis hits. Someone who... She stopped, her blood running cold. One name appeared again and again in the data, always in the background, never obvious. Voting patterns that seemed reasonable on the surface but consistently pushed towards specific outcomes. Trade agreements that gave them strategic positioning. Research grants that funneled money toward Rift technology. Chancellor Vex, Maya said quietly, second in command to the council. The moderate voice who's been advocating for slow, careful reform for the last 100 years. The reasonable one. The Queen closed her eyes. Of course. Who would suspect a reformer? The one who speaks kindly of humanity, who argues for gradual improvement in conditions, who positions himself as the bridge between conservative and progressive factions? He's been playing both sides. To the conservatives, he's the voice of caution, preventing rapid change. To the progressives, he's an ally pushing for reform. Meanwhile, he's been accelerating human development specifically to create the crisis everyone fears. When it happens, he'll be the only one positioned to save the galaxy from the human threat. The Council will grant him emergency powers, possibly even elevate him to replace you. And he'll have legitimate justification because humanity really will appear to be the threat. The Queen's voice carried bitter admiration. It's brilliant. Diabolical, but brilliant. Lyria shook her head. Chancellor Vex has been Mother's most trusted advisor for 50 years. He helped draft the original reform proposals. He's worked tirelessly for peace. He's worked tirelessly for power, Maya corrected. Peace was just his vehicle. She pulled up more data, connecting dots. The Kepler Station incident happened 3 months after Vex proposed his Human Advancement Initiative. The timing wasn't coincidence. He needed to prove that humans couldn't handle advanced technology, needed to create fear in the Council. So he tested Void Spawn deployment on a human target, knowing we'd find a way to survive but at terrible cost. It made humanity look dangerous and desperate. The pieces fit too well to be wrong. Maya felt sick, realizing how thoroughly they'd all been manipulated, including her. Every time she'd fought against impossible odds, every time humanity had scraped survival from certain death, they'd been playing into Vex's narrative. We need to arrest him immediately, Seraphina said. before he realizes we know. He already knows, the Queen said grimly. The moment I invoked sovereign right, he knew something had changed. He's been monitoring palace security protocols for decades. He'll have escape plans, contingencies. As if summoning him by speaking his name, the chamber's communication system activated. Chancellor Vex's face appeared in holographic projection, his expression perfectly calm. Your Majesty, he said pleasantly. I hope the princesses are recovering well. Such a terrible incident. I've been coordinating with security to ensure nothing like this happens again. How considerate, the Queen replied, her voice neutral. I wasn't aware you'd been briefed on this situation. Oh, I make it my business to stay informed about threats to the royal family. It's my duty as Chancellor. His eyes flickered to Maya, showing no surprise at seeing an armed human in the royal sanctum. Captain Santos, I presume? Your reputation precedes you. The Kepler Station survivor. The one who learned to kill Void Spawn. Maya said nothing, her hand resting on her weapon. I've reviewed the security footage from the incident, Vex continued. Quite impressive how you managed to save all 3 princesses. Almost as if you knew exactly what to do. Almost as if you'd encountered Void Spawn before. I have encountered them before, Maya said flatly. At Kepler Station, where someone opened a rift and murdered 6,000 humans. Yes, tragic. I pushed for a full investigation, but the Council deemed it unnecessary. Human casualties rarely warrant extensive resources. He smiled, and there was nothing pleasant in the expression. But perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps we should have investigated more thoroughly. After all, if someone could open one rift, they could open others. The threat hung in the air, unspoken but clear. Chancellor, the Queen said carefully, I'm curious about something. The rift technology used in today's incident was highly advanced. Almost suspiciously so. Do you have any theories about who might possess such capabilities? Many people possess such capabilities, Your Majesty. The real question is who would dare use them within the palace itself. That requires not just knowledge but extraordinary boldness. Or extraordinary desperation. Vex's smile widened. I've been thinking about that question quite a bit lately. About what might drive someone to such desperate measures. Do you know what I concluded? Enlighten me. Fear. Someone fears that the current order is about to collapse. Someone fears that humanity is about to awaken and destroy everything we've built. Someone fears that the truth about the Treaty of Submission might become public knowledge. He leaned closer to the holographic pickup, his 4 eyes gleaming. Someone fears they're running out of time to prevent catastrophe. Maya's finger tightened on her weapon trigger. Sounds like you've given it a lot of thought. I think about little else, Captain Santos. I lie awake in my chambers, imagining what would happen if humanity learned how thoroughly we've lied to them. The rage. The violence. The war that would consume the galaxy. I think about how many billions would die because we couldn't maintain the necessary illusions. His expression shifted, becoming almost sad. I think about how much blood would stain the stars because someone decided truth was more important than peace. Truth is always more important than peace built on lies, the Queen said quietly. Is it? How noble. How principled. And how catastrophically naive. Vex straightened. I'm activating Emergency Protocol 7. All council members are being moved to secure locations until the security threat is resolved. That includes you, Your Majesty. For your own protection, of course. I'm invoking sovereign right. Your emergency protocol is superseded. Sovereign right requires the monarch to be in full command of their faculties. I'm concerned that recent events may have compromised your judgment, Your Majesty. You're showing unprecedented favoritism toward a human, granting absurd levels of security clearance, making erratic decisions. The Council may need to invoke the incapacity clause. Maya's implant flashed warning. Armed units were converging on their position. Not palace guards. These were Chancellor's Guard, Vex's personal military force. "You're attempting a coup," the Queen said, her voice icy. "I'm attempting to save the Empire from your suicidal honesty. Someone has to." Vex's hologram flickered. "In approximately 3 minutes, my forces will secure that chamber. You'll be taken into protective custody until the Council can assess your mental state. The human will be executed as a security threat. The princesses will be safely returned to their quarters. Everything will return to proper order. And if I resist? Then, you force me to classify you as a hostile actor, Your Majesty. I really hope you don't force me to do that." The hologram vanished. Alarm screamed through the palace. Maya's tactical display showed armed units closing in from every direction, moving with military precision. "We're trapped," Seraphina said, her voice tight with panic. "The sanctum has one entrance. We can't fight our way through an entire battalion." The Queen moved to a seemingly blank section of wall, pressing her hand against it. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage. The palace has emergency tunnels built during the Succession Wars. They're not on any official schematics. This one leads to the archive vault, the most secure location in the palace. If we can reach it, we can access systems Vex can't control. He'll know about the tunnels," Maya said. "He's been planning this for decades. He knows about most of them. But there's one he's never seen." The Queen smiled grimly. "Because I built it myself, in secret, specifically for a day like this. I've been planning too, Captain. I've spent 200 years preparing for the moment when everything came crashing down." They entered the tunnel, moving fast through the narrow space. Behind them, the chamber doors exploded inward. Vex forces poured into the sanctum, finding it empty. The tunnel sloped downward, descending deep beneath the palace. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. Lyria stayed close to Maya, her weapon ready. Seraphina followed reluctantly. Thalissa had to be half carried by the guards, still weak from the Void Spawn encounter. "How far to the archive vault?" Maya asked. 2 kilometers. But the tunnel was designed for emergencies, not comfort. "It's going to be..." Explosion sounds echoed from behind them. The tunnel shook, dust raining from the ceiling. "They're breaching the tunnel entrance," one of the guards reported. "They'll be on us in minutes." Maya analyzed their tactical situation. The tunnel was too narrow for effective defense. They couldn't hold off a battalion with 5 people, no matter how well armed. They needed to reach the archive vault before Vex forces caught them. "How long before we reach the vault?" Maya asked. "At this pace? 12 minutes. We don't have 12 minutes. Maya turned to the Queen. "Your Majesty, can you operate the vault systems remotely?" "Not through standard channels. Vex has compromised those. But there's a direct quantum link to the vault's core systems. It requires physical contact with a royal genetic marker and level 10 clearance," Maya finished, having reviewed the security protocols in the data dump. "You can do it, which means we don't all need to reach the vault. We just need to buy you time to activate it remotely." The Queen understood immediately. "You want to hold them off. You want to sacrifice yourself so we can escape. I want to complete the mission. That's all I've ever wanted." Lyria grabbed Maya's arm. "That's suicide. Vex will have 50 soldiers behind us. Then I'll make those 50 soldiers count." Maya checked her ammunition. Still enough for a fight, though not enough for 50 enemies. She'd need to be creative. "Your Majesty, when you reach the vault, access every file Vex has been hiding. Broadcast them across the entire galaxy, not just to Earth. Let every species see what he's done, what the treaty really was, all of it." burn down every lie. Captain, that's an order, Your Majesty. You gave me authority under sovereign right. I'm using it. The Queen stared at her for a long moment, and Maya saw 1,000 emotions flicker across that ancient face. Very well, Captain Santos. I accept your orders. But know this, when you're finished holding that line, there will be a place for you in the new order we're building. Not as a servant, as an equal. I'll hold you to that. Maya positioned herself at a junction point where the tunnel widened slightly. Good defensive position. Limited angles of attack. She could hold here for maybe 10 minutes if she was smart and lucky. The Queen and the princesses continued down the tunnel, their footsteps fading into the darkness. Maya activated her tactical implant, mapping firing arcs and calculating optimal positions. Then she waited for Vex soldiers to arrive. They came fast and professional, advancing in tight formation with energy shields raised. Maya counted 20 in the first wave, with more behind. She let them enter the junction fully, let them think they had her cornered. Then she fired. Her first 3 shots took down the junction's overhead lighting, plunging everything into darkness. Her enhanced implant switched to thermal vision, showing her the soldiers as bright heat signatures against cool tunnel walls. They scrambled for their own low-light equipment, but she'd already moved, rolling to a new position. 4 more shots. 4 soldiers dropped, their shields failing under precisely aimed electromagnetic pulses. The others returned fire, but they were shooting at where she'd been, not where she was. Maya used the tunnel's acoustics against them, firing from multiple angles to create the impression of several shooters. The soldiers split their formation, trying to cover more angles. Tactical mistake. She punished it immediately, taking down 3 more before they realized their error. But numbers would win eventually. They pushed forward in organized waves, using proper suppressive fire and coordinated movement. Military training showing through. Maya's ammunition counter dropped steadily. 12 shots left. 10. 8. She switched tactics, using the tunnel's structural weaknesses against them. A well-placed shot to the ceiling brought down a small collapse, blocking half the junction. Another shot ruptured a coolant pipe, filling the tunnel with scalding steam. The soldiers adapted, bringing up heavy shields and pushing through the obstacles. They were close now, less than 30 meters away. Maya could hear their commander coordinating the final push. 4 shots remaining. She'd bought maybe 6 minutes. Not enough. The Queen needed at least 10 to reach the vault and activate the quantum link. Maya made the only choice she could. She charged. The soldiers weren't expecting it. Nobody expects the cornered enemy to attack directly. She emerged from cover running full speed, firing her last 4 shots point blank into the forward shields. The shields held, but the kinetic impact staggered the soldiers. She was among them before they could properly respond, using their own bodies as cover, her combat training taking over. She dropped her empty weapon and grabbed a fallen soldier's rifle, using it to bludgeon another. Close quarters combat was chaos, exactly where superior numbers lost their advantage. She fought with desperate precision, knowing every second counted, knowing this was where she would die. A rifle but caught her in the ribs. She twisted with the impact, using it to add momentum to her counterstrike. Another soldier went down. Energy blasts seared past her head, so close she smelled burning hair. She grabbed a soldier's arm and redirected his aim into his companions. Then, the commander's shot caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around. Pain exploded through her nervous system. She dropped to one knee, her vision blurring. The soldiers closed in, weapons raised. The tunnel lit up with brilliant white light. Not from weapons. From the walls themselves, every surface suddenly, glowing with intricate patterns that hadn't been visible before. The Queen's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, resonating through frequencies that made reality itself vibrate. "Stand down, all of you, now!" The soldiers froze, their conditioning warring with confusion. The tunnel walls showed holographic projections. The Queen's face, massive and overwhelming, staring down at them. "I am Queen Valora, invoking not just sovereign right but ancient right, the law that supersedes all councils and chancellors. I have accessed the archive vault. I have activated protocols that haven't been used in 10,000 years. And I am commanding you, under penalty of permanent exile, to stand down immediately." One soldier, braver or more foolish than the others, kept his weapon raised. "The Chancellor's orders are void. Vex has been attempting a coup using manipulated human technology and void spawn. The evidence is being broadcast across all palace systems right now. Look at your tactical displays. See for yourselves." The soldiers hesitated, then checked their displays. Maya, still on her knees and bleeding, saw their expressions change as the data flooded their systems. Vex files. The conspiracy. The Kepler station attack. The decades of manipulation. The truth. Weapons lowered slowly. One by one, the soldiers stepped back, their absolute certainty crumbling under the weight of evidence. The commander, his face pale, stared at Maya with something approaching awe. You knew. You fought us knowing the Queen would save you." "No," Maya said, struggling to her feet despite the pain. "I fought you knowing she'd need time to save all of us. There's a difference." Emergency medical drones arrived, summoned by the Queen's commands. They swarmed Maya, applying field dressings and pain suppressors. The shoulder wound was serious but not fatal. She'd survived to see the aftermath of what they'd just unleashed. The Queen's projection shifted, showing not just her face but the archive vault's main display. Data streamed across it, centuries of suppressed information, hidden truths, manipulated records. "This broadcast is going to every major system in the galaxy," the Queen said. "Every species will see what the Treaty of Submission really was. Every species will see how Vex manipulated both humans and Valorians to maintain power. And every species will see that humanity was never the threat we claimed. They were our victims." The implications were staggering. Maya felt them like physical weight, understanding that the galaxy had just changed forever. "What about Vex?" she asked. "Where is he?" "Unknown. He fled the palace the moment I activated ancient right. But he can't run far. Every system knows his face now. Every species knows what he did." The Queen's expression hardened. "He'll be found. And when he is, he'll face justice." Lyria's face appeared beside her mother's projection. "Captain Santos, the medical drones say your injury is stable. Mother's ordered a transport to take you to the Royal Medical Wing." "I don't need. That's an order, Captain," the Queen said. "From both your commander and your Queen. You've done enough for today." Maya wanted to argue, but the pain suppressors were making it hard to think clearly. She let the drones guide her onto a medical transport, her mind still racing through implications and consequences. The galaxy had just learned that everything it knew about humanity was a lie. 8 billion people who'd spent 2 centuries believing they were inferior had just discovered they'd been deliberately sabotaged and suppressed. The rage that would follow. "Your Majesty," Maya called out as the transport began to move. "Earth is going to demand answers. Reparations. Some will demand war. I know. Can the Empire survive that? I don't know. But I know we couldn't survive continuing the lie." The Queen's projection met Maya's eyes. "Whatever happens next, we'll face it with truth rather than deception. That has to count for something." The transport carried Maya through newly secured tunnels, past surrendered soldiers, and shocked palace staff. News of the broadcast was spreading like wildfire. She could see it in their faces: confusion, denial, slowly dawning understanding. The galaxy had just discovered it was built on a lie. The question was whether it would survive the truth. In the Royal Medical Wing, doctors swarmed Maya with equipment far beyond anything Earth possessed. They healed her shoulder in minutes, technology that seemed like magic compared to human medicine. It was a stark reminder of how much had been kept from humanity, how much potential had been deliberately suppressed. Lyria visited her in recovery, still wearing her combat gear, looking exhausted. The council is in chaos. Half of them are calling for Mother's arrest. The other half are trying to distance themselves from Vex. It's a mess. It's honest, Maya replied. That's more than you had before. Is it worth it? All this chaos? Ask me in a year. If we're all still alive, then, maybe. Lyria sat beside the medical bed, her 4 eyes thoughtful. I never questioned it before. The treaty. The way we treated humans. It was just normal. The way things were. I never thought about whether it was right. Most people don't question what they're taught from birth. That's not an excuse. No, it's not. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 representatives of species that had been enemies and victims, trying to figure out how to exist in a galaxy where the old rules no longer applied. The other princesses are being briefed by Mother, Lyria said finally, preparing for the political storm. But I wanted to come here first. To say. She struggled with the words. To say thank you. And I'm sorry. For everything my species did to yours. It's a start, Maya said. But apologies won't heal 200 years of damage. That'll take work. Real work. I know. And I want to help. However, I can. The door opened. Queen Valora entered, flanked by guards, but moving with the confidence of someone who'd just reshaped history. She dismissed the guards with a gesture and approached Maya's bed. Captain Santos, how are you feeling? Like I got shot saving a galaxy that spent 2 centuries treating my people like slaves. Fair assessment. The Queen pulled up a chair, sitting beside Lyria. I've been in contact with Earth's government. They're processing the information. The initial response is about what we expected. Shock. Rage. Demands for immediate liberation from treaty obligations. Can't imagine why. I've offered full reparations. Technology transfers, resource compensation, formal apologies, removal of all treaty restrictions. Earth is now a fully sovereign world, subject to no outside authority. Additionally, I'm proposing a new treaty, one of genuine partnership and mutual respect. Will Earth accept? Some will. Others will want blood. There are already calls for war crimes tribunals, demands that I stand trial for my role in maintaining the treaty. The Queen smiled with a humor. They're not wrong. I am guilty. I maintained an unjust system for 200 years, even while working to undermine it. What will you do? Face whatever judgment comes. Earth deserves justice, and if that means my own trial and execution, so be it. The truth matters more than my survival. Maya studied the Queen, seeing genuine conviction beneath the exhaustion. You really mean that? I do. Though I hope to at least see the transition to the new order before I face judgment. There's still so much work to do. The Queen pulled up holographic displays, showing riot footage from dozens of worlds. Not everyone welcomes the truth. Conservative factions are already organizing resistance. Some species fear humanity's emergence. Others see this as opportunity to settle old grudges. We're on the edge of galactic civil war. Can you prevent it? I don't know. But I have to try. The Queen looked at Maya intently. Which brings me to why I'm here. I need your help, Captain. I'm just a soldier. You're the symbol of everything this galaxy needs right now. You represent humanity's resilience, their ability to survive and exceed despite 2 centuries of oppression. You saved my daughters when you had every reason to let them die. You fought alongside a Valorian princess when you could have used her as a hostage. You proved that humans and Valorians can work together as equals. Maya felt cold spread through her chest. You want to use me as propaganda. I want you to help me prevent a war. There's a difference. Is there? Captain, humanity is going to be the deciding factor in what happens next. If Earth chooses war, dozens of species will rally to oppose them. If Earth chooses peace, we have a chance at rebuilding. Right now, Earth is listening to 1,000 voices all shouting different things. They need someone they can trust. Someone who's lived through the oppression. Someone who proved humanity's worth on the galactic stage. They need someone who isn't you, Maya said flatly. Because no matter what you say, you're still the Queen who maintained the treaty for 200 years. Exactly. I can't be the bridge between our species. But you can. Maya wanted to refuse. Every molecule in her body wanted to tell the Queen to handle her own mess. But she thought about Kepler Station, about the 6,000 people who died while the galaxy ignored them. She thought about every human child who'd grown up believing they were inferior. She thought about the war that was coming unless someone found a way to stop it. What exactly are you asking me to do? Speak to Earth. Tell them what happened here. Tell them about finding the truth, about working alongside Princess Lyria, about the choice between revenge and rebuilding. Let them see that cooperation is possible. They'll think I've been compromised. A collaborator. Some will, but others will listen. And that might be enough to tip the balance toward peace instead of war. The Queen leaned forward. I'm not asking you to forgive us, Captain. I'm asking you to help us all survive what comes next. Lyria spoke up. I'll stand with you. If you speak to Earth, I'll be there too. Let them see a Valorian princess acknowledging the truth and committing to change. Maybe that'll mean something. Maya looked at them both, the Queen who'd maintained an unjust system while secretly trying to dismantle it, the princess who discovered truth and chosen to stand for it despite the cost. They weren't asking for forgiveness. They were asking for a chance. I'll do it, Maya said finally. But on my terms. No scripted speeches. No palace politics. I speak the truth, all of it, including the parts that make you look bad. I wouldn't have it any other way. And Earth gets full autonomy. No gradual transition or monitored independence. Complete freedom immediately. Already done. The treaty is formally dissolved. Earth is sovereign. And the humans still in your prisons? Executed for incompetence or security failures that were really just scapegoating? All pardoned, released, and compensated. It's already being processed. Maya nodded slowly. Then I'll speak. But understand, I'm doing this for humanity, not for you. If I think peace isn't possible, if I think Earth needs to fight, I'll say so. I understand. The Queen stood, and for a moment, she looked impossibly old, the weight of 200 years of lies pressing down on her. History will judge us all harshly, Captain Santos. The only question is whether we'll leave behind a galaxy worth judging. She left with Lyria, leaving Maya alone with medical drones and her thoughts. Through the window, she could see the palace grounds, could see ships taking off as nobles, and officials fled the chaos. The old order was collapsing, and nobody knew what would replace it. Her neural implant chimed. Incoming message from Earth Command. She activated it, seeing Admiral Chen's face, the highest-ranking human in the Terran Defense Force, and her direct superior. Captain Santos, I've been briefed on the situation. Hell of a day you've had. That's one way to put it, sir. Earth wants you home immediately. They're organizing a massive assembly, every major government representative. They want to hear directly from you about what happened. The Queen wants me to speak in favor of peace. I know. That puts you in an interesting position. Admiral Chen's expression was unreadable. What are you going to say? The truth, sir. Nothing more, nothing less. The truth is complicated. Earth is angry. Rightfully so. A lot of people want vengeance, want to make the Valorians and every other species pay for 200 years of oppression. If you speak in favor of peace, some will call you a traitor. And if I speak in favor of war, millions die. Possibly billions. Yes. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the impossible weight of the choice. What do you think I should do, sir? I think you should do exactly what you've always done, Captain. Make the hard choice and live with the consequences. Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, I believe peace is possible. But it won't be easy, and it won't be clean. There's a lot of rage to work through first. Rage is earned. Agreed. But rage alone won't rebuild what was broken. That takes something else entirely. The transmission ended. Maya lay back on the medical bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. 48 hours ago, she'd been a simple soldier following orders. Now she was somehow at the center of a galactic crisis that could reshape civilization itself. She thought about her father, who'd lived his whole life believing humans were inferior. She thought about the 8 billion people on Earth who'd just learned they'd been lied to since birth. She thought about the future that might exist if people chose building over burning. The choice wasn't between right and wrong. It was between difficult and catastrophic. Maya activated her communication implant. This is Captain Maya Santos to Earth Command. I'm ready to speak to the Assembly. But first, I need to visit Kepler Station Memorial. Those people died because of this conspiracy. They deserve to be remembered before we decide what comes next. Acknowledged, Captain. Transport is being arranged. 3 days later, Maya stood before the Kepler Station Memorial, a simple monument of stone and metal listing 6,000 names. Lyria stood beside her, both of them in formal attire. Behind them, holocameras recorded everything, broadcasting to Earth and 47 other worlds. These people died because Chancellor Vex needed test subjects, Maya said, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside. He opened a rift, unleashed void spawn, and watched 6,000 humans fight for survival. He studied how we adapted, how we learned, how we resisted. All so he could refine his techniques before using them against his own people. She touched the memorial, feeling the cold stone beneath her fingers. I was one of 47 survivors. For 2 years, I thought we'd survive through luck and desperation. Now I know we survived because we were meant to. Vex needed survivors to report back, to teach other humans how to fight Void Spawn, to be ready when he needed us as weapons. Lyria stepped forward, her 4 eyes reflecting genuine grief. On behalf of the Valorian Empire, I acknowledge the truth of these deaths. We are responsible. Not just Vex, but all of us who maintain the system that made this possible. These 6,000 people died because we treated humanity as expendable. That truth cannot be changed or softened. They stood in silence for a long moment, letting the weight of those words settle. Then Maya turned to face the cameras directly. Earth has a choice now. We can choose war. We can choose to make every species that oppressed us pay in blood. That rage is justified. That rage is earned. No one would blame us for choosing vengeance. She paused, letting the truth stand. But I've seen what that leads to. I've seen what happens when rage becomes policy. I've seen the cost of letting anger drive our choices. So I'm asking Earth to choose something harder. Choose to rebuild instead of destroy. Choose to demand justice instead of vengeance. Choose to make the galaxy better instead of just making it burn. She looked at Lyria. The Valorians owe us. Every species that benefited from the treaty owes us. They owe us truth, reparations, technology, resources, and, most importantly, respect. We should demand all of that. But we should demand it as equals building a better future, not as victims destroying everything out of pain. Admiral Chen's voice came through her earpiece. Earth Assembly wants to hear from Princess Lyria directly. They want to know if Valorians are truly committed to change. Lyria must have received a similar message because she nodded and addressed the cameras. I cannot undo 200 years of injustice. I cannot bring back the dead or erase the suffering. But I can commit to spending the rest of my life working for genuine equality. Not the false equality of the old treaty, but real partnership where humans and Valorians stand together as peers. My mother is facing calls for her execution. She will likely stand trial. The empire I've known all my life is collapsing. Everything is chaos. Lyria's voice strengthened. And that's exactly what needs to happen. The old order was built on lies. It deserves to collapse. What we build in its place will be better precisely because humanity will help design it from the beginning as equals, not servants. The broadcast continued for another hour, taking questions from Earth Assembly representatives. Some questions were hostile, accusatory, demanding to know why Maya wasn't calling for total war. Others were cautiously hopeful, asking about the practical steps of transitioning from treaty to partnership. Maya answered every question honestly, never softening the truth of what had been done to humanity, but also never pretending that war would fix anything. It was the hardest speech she'd ever given, threading the needle between justified rage and catastrophic vengeance. When it ended, she felt hollowed out, exhausted in ways that went beyond physical. You did well, Lyria said quietly. Better than I could have. We'll see. Earth Assembly votes tomorrow on whether to accept the Queen's peace proposal or declare war. I might have just failed to prevent a galactic catastrophe. Or you might have just saved billions of lives. Time will tell. They returned to the palace, where Queen Valora waited with the council. The political situation remained chaotic, with some council members calling for the Queen's immediate abdication while others scrambled to distance themselves from Vex. The Chancellor himself remained at large, though reports placed him in exile somewhere beyond the mapped territories. The vote is close, the Queen reported. 48% in favor of the peace proposal. 37% in favor of war. 15% undecided. It could go either way. What happens if Earth chooses war? Maya asked. Then we fight. Earth has the advantage of technological parity now. The information I released included everything we've been suppressing. Your shipyards will be able to produce vessels equal to ours within months. Add humanity's tactical adaptability and willingness to take risks, and it'll be a devastating conflict. Casualties? Conservative estimates suggest 2 billion dead across all sides within the first year. 5 billion if the war extends beyond that. The numbers hung in the air like lead weights. Maya had fought her entire life, but she'd never faced the possibility of being responsible for billions of deaths. The next day passed in agonizing slowness. Maya tried to distract herself by reviewing tactical reports, analyzing political developments, doing anything to avoid thinking about the vote. But her mind kept returning to it, cycling through possibilities and consequences. Lyria joined her in the palace observation deck, both of them staring out at the stars. No matter what happens, this was the right thing to do, the princess said. Continuing the lie would have been worse. Would it? At least the old lie didn't risk billions of lives. The old lie was killing humanity slowly. Death by inches is still death. Maya couldn't argue with that. Her neural implant chimed at exactly 1800 hours standard time. Earth assembly vote results. She pulled up the data, her heart pounding. 51% in favor of the peace proposal. 39% in favor of war. 10% abstaining. Peace. By the narrowest possible margin, Earth had chosen peace. Maya felt something break inside her chest. Tension she'd been carrying since the moment the crystalline door shattered. Since the moment she'd saved 3 princesses who represented everything wrong with the galaxy. That tension released all at once, and she found herself laughing and crying simultaneously. "We did it," Lyria whispered, her own relief evident. "By the stars, we actually did it. By 2%. That's not exactly a mandate. It's enough. It's a chance." The Queen entered the observation deck, moving faster than Maya had ever seen her. Earth Assembly has voted for peace. They're also demanding immediate negotiations on the terms of the new partnership treaty. They want humans at every level of decision-making, immediate technology transfers, full access to all council proceedings, and formal representation in galactic government. "That's going to be a hard sell to the other species," Maya said. "Let them be hard to sell to. Humanity earned this." The Queen smiled genuinely for perhaps the first time since Maya had met her. "Captain Santos, on behalf of the Valorian Empire and the Galactic Council, I'm offering you a position as Earth's first representative to the new council structure. You would have full authority to negotiate on behalf of humanity, to veto any proposals you deemed unjust, to ensure that Earth's interests are protected." Maya stared at her. "I'm a soldier, not a diplomat. You're someone who fought for the truth when it would have been easier to accept lies. You're someone who chose the hard right over the easy wrong. That's exactly what we need. I'll have to talk to Earth Command. To my superiors. I can't just... I've already spoken with Admiral Chen. He enthusiastically endorses the appointment. He says, and I quote, 'Santos has been making my life difficult with hard choices for 8 years. Might as well make her the galaxy's problem now.'" Despite everything, Maya laughed. That sounded exactly like Chen. "I'll need support staff. Human support staff. People I trust. Done. You'll have full authority to assemble your own team. And I want access to everything. Every classified file. Every secret the Council has been keeping. No more lies. Done. And I want regular sessions where any human can submit questions or concerns directly to the Council. No filters. No gatekeepers. Done." Maya took a deep breath. "Then I accept. On the condition that my first official act is to demand Chancellor Vex's capture and trial. He doesn't get to hide from justice. Already being arranged. Every major military force in the galaxy is searching for him. He'll be found." "Good." Maya looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of the future settling on her shoulders. It was heavy, almost crushing. But it was also hopeful in a way nothing had been before. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow. The formal council session convenes to ratify Earth's admission as a full member state. You'll be presented and sworn in. No pressure then. Captain, you've spent the last week preventing galactic civil war and reshaping 200 years of injustice. I think you can handle a ceremonial oath." The ceremony itself was strange, ancient rituals mixing with hastily written protocols for admitting a formerly subject species as equals. Maya wore her Terran Defense Force uniform, refusing to adopt Valorian ceremonial dress. She was representing humanity, and humanity would be represented honestly. The council chamber was massive, seats arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. Representatives from 47 species watched as Maya took the oath, their expressions ranging from respect to resentment to barely concealed hostility. Queen Valora administered the oath herself, her voice carrying through the chamber without amplification. "Do you, Maya Santos, representative of Earth and humanity, swear to uphold the principles of this council, to work for the benefit of all species, to pursue justice and peace, and to speak truth regardless of convenience?" "I do," Maya said, her voice steady. "And I swear that humanity will never again be silent in our own governance. We will speak. We will be heard. And we will ensure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else." The chamber erupted in mixed reactions. Applause from some quarters, stony silence from others. Maya didn't care. She just claimed humanity's place at the table, and nobody would ever take it away again. The next months were brutal. Negotiating the new partnership treaty revealed just how deep the divisions ran. Every species had different ideas about what equality meant, what reparations looked like, what justice required. Some wanted humanity relegated to second-tier status, fear of human potential overriding moral considerations. Others pushed for genuine equality, but defined it in ways that still left humans disadvantaged. Maya fought for every point, every clause, every word. She learned to navigate council politics, to build coalitions, to know when to compromise and when to hold firm. Lyria proved invaluable, providing insight into Valorian diplomatic traditions and warning Maya about political traps. 6 months after the vote, Vex was finally captured attempting to flee through an illegal dimensional rift. His trial became the most watched proceeding in galactic history, laying bare the full extent of his conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming: decades of manipulation, thousands of deaths, systematic sabotage of humanity's development. He was sentenced to permanent exile in a null-space prison, unable to interact with normal reality, but conscious of his isolation. Many argued for execution. But humanity, through Maya's voice, argued for something worse than death, forcing Vex to exist in absolute isolation, aware of the galaxy he'd failed to control, unable to influence or manipulate ever again. It was a mercy and a cruelty in equal measure. Exactly what he'd done to humanity. The new treaty was finally ratified 1 year after Maya stood in the palace sanctum watching shadows attack. The galaxy that emerged was messier than the old order, full of conflicts and disagreements. But it was honest. It was built on truth instead of lies, on partnership instead of subjugation. Earth exploded into the galactic community, human innovation and adaptability finally unleashed. Within 5 years, human technology matched or exceeded Valorian standards in most fields. Within 10, humanity was leading the way in dimensional research, quantum engineering, and a dozen other fields. The Queen's old projections had been right. Humanity did make other species obsolete, not through conquest, but through sheer creative momentum. But instead of resentment, most species found themselves grateful. Humanity's innovations improved lives across the galaxy. Human diplomatic approaches resolved conflicts that had festered for centuries. Human perspective, shaped by 200 years of struggle, brought new solutions to old problems. Maya served as Earth's representative for 15 years before finally stepping down, exhausted but satisfied. She'd watched the galaxy transform, watched humanity take its rightful place, watched the old lies crumble and new truths emerge. On her last day in the council, she stood on the same observation deck where she'd learned about Earth's vote for peace. Lyria, now queen herself after Valora's abdication, joined her. "You're really leaving?" Lyria asked. "I'm a soldier, not a politician. I did what needed doing. Now it's time for someone else to take over. You'll be remembered. The human who saved the galaxy. I didn't save the galaxy. I just told the truth and hoped it would be enough. Maya smiled. Besides, I'm not disappearing. I'm just going back to what I do best. The Terran Defense Force has been restructured. We're not servants anymore. We're partners. Equal partners. I want to help build that. Fair enough. Lyria pressed a small data crystal into Maya's hand. From my mother. She wanted you to have it. What is it? Her personal journals. 200 years of thoughts about humanity, about the treaty, about the lies she maintained, and the guilt she carried. She thought you should understand her fully, not just the public version. Maya closed her fingers around the crystal. How is she? At peace, I think. She knew she'd face judgment eventually. Standing trial and admitting her guilt, that let her finally rest. The Laura had been sentenced to house arrest rather than imprisonment, both a mercy and an acknowledgement of her complicated role. She'd maintained an unjust system, but she'd also been the one to finally tear it down. History would argue forever about whether that redeemed her. Tell her I'll read them, Maya said. And tell her I understand. That's more grace than she deserves. Maybe, but grace is what builds futures. Judgment just settles the past. Maya left the palace that day, returning to Earth for the first time in years. The world had changed almost beyond recognition. Cities gleamed with integrated human-Valorian technology. Schools taught the true history of the treaty alongside lessons in quantum mechanics and dimensional engineering. Children grew up knowing they were equals, not servants. Her father met her at the spaceport, older now, but standing straighter than she remembered. You did it, he said simply. You gave us our dignity back. We all did it. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Don't undersell yourself. You made the hard choices when they needed making. They walked through the city together, and Maya felt something she'd never experienced before. Pride in humanity. Not the desperate pride of a subjugated people trying to prove their worth, but the quiet confidence of a species that knew exactly what it was capable of. The galaxy had been built on a lie that said humanity was inferior. Maya hadn't destroyed that lie alone. It had taken a disgraced queen, a brave princess, billions of people demanding truth, and one narrow vote for peace. But she'd been there when it mattered. She'd made the choices that gave others a chance to choose. And now, looking at Earth transformed, at humanity finally free, she understood that sometimes the greatest victories weren't won through combat. Sometimes they were won by standing in front of cameras and asking people to choose building over burning, to choose hope over hate, to choose the difficult future over the easy past. The galaxy was still messy, still full of conflicts and complications. But it was honest. And honest problems could be solved in ways that lies never could. Maya looked up at the stars, seeing not a source of oppression, but a frontier of possibility. Somewhere up there, other species were facing their own challenges, working through their own transformations. And humanity was there beside them, not as servants or masters, but as partners. It had taken 200 years of lies and 1 week of truth to get here, but they'd made it. And the future, uncertain and difficult as it would be, stretched out before them full of possibility.